Modernism is a design movement that began just after the very ornamented and golden 20s with Art Nouveau and Art Deco. It actually began in many ways with the Viennese architect Adolf Loos, who wrote an essay called Ornament and Crime, basically stating that that all unnecessary ornaments should be stripped away from architecture and design, and it should just be the ornamentation of the material in itself that was the beauty. So he did fantastic interiors with big slates of marble, tainted woods, and rich textiles. Later on in Germany, you had the very famous Bauhaus movement that was squeezed in between the two world wars. They were very visionary in many ways. They wanted to change society with design and architecture, and they wanted design to really matter. They combined fine art with craftsmanship and industrialized mass production, just as we do at Menu today. Just before the Second World War, a lot of the masters of the Bauhaus schools, they migrated to other places in the world, especially the US, where Mies van der Rohe, for example, built a lot of beautiful buildings using these principles in the US, and influenced American architects and designers like Charles Eames, Eero Saarinen, and so on. In Scandinavia, we had a slightly different interpretation of modernism called functionalism, but basically it was about functionality and making design matter in the same way. But it had a slightly more organic and natural feel to it. Well, after a long period with postmodernist design coming especially from Holland and France, and very colorful new Nordic design, at Menu we felt the strong need to go back to the virtues and values of the modernist masters. We wanted to focus on the use of good materials, natural materials, clean, simple shapes, and functionality in design that really met a need for the consumer, but in a new and contemporary way. That is Modernism Reimagined. Well, Modernism is the overall inspiration for the new Menu collection. But as an example, the Bauhaus masters were very famous for using tubular steel in their furniture design. We have been working with that with the new Afterroom series, interpreting the beautiful furniture pieces they did, but in a new and more elegant manner. We have also been looking at how masters like Arne Jacobsen, Alvar Aalto, and Charles Eames used bent veneer and wood in general, and worked that into our collection. Well, in all the modernist buildings, what was unique was that many of them worked with an open space planning. Instead of having four walls that confined the space, it was more like freestanding walls where you could move around them, having different spaces, and where you kind of dissolved interior and exterior. A very famous example is the Barcelona Pavilion by Ludwig Mies van der Rohe. Another great example is actually a Mexican modernist architect called Luis Barragan, who worked with positioning walls in different colors to create something that was in between sculpture and architecture. At all the stand designs we have done for the fairs this spring, we have been working with exactly that composition of walls, reinterpreting the work of Luis Barragan. Well, even in our images for this season, for Menu, we have been working with modernism. We've been looking at the photographic style of the Bauhaus. Besides doing architecture and design, they were also experimenting with art, painting, photography. And they were working very much with the basic geometrical shapes, the triangle, the square, the circle. And they photographed them with very hard shadows that really defined the shape. We've done just that with our new images. And we even shot them at one of the great modernist heritage buildings in Copenhagen, the old airport terminal designed by Wilhelm Lauritsen. It's an extremely beautiful building that has these grand spaces, but working with different natural materials, big stone walls, paneled wood walls that are curved, beautiful spiraling staircases, kind of a wavy ceiling, and all the colors that are also incorporated into our collection this season. And that is how we visually have reimagined modernism.